Well, folks, good day to you one and all, and welcome to round number 5 with the Sports and GT Masters Series. And as always, with me, the voice of Western Province Motorsport, Frankie Ennis. Frankie, good day to you. Round 5, Suzuka Dolores LMP2s.
Well, I'll tell you something. What a day we've had here in Cape Town. We've had a race event at Killarney International Raceway today. Cape Hall drivers doing their club event. And now we come to Sports and GT Masters. Yes, it's at the Suzuka circuit, which is basically owned and run by Honda Motorsport Corporation. 18 degrees out there, 3k an hour wind, partly cloudy, 3% chance of rain, which means absolutely nothing. And on the Formula 1 calendar, this is the only circuit that has a crossover. And I love this circuit, Suzuka. It's got everything. It's got whatever you need in a racetrack, you'll find at Suzuka. But after 8 minutes, Gary, Francois Hubert, 1:45.596. He is the quickest man. Now, last week we couldn't live stream because of complications, and he did extremely well last week, and Johan Fourie ended in 10th position, and Willem Pinaar got a top 3, so the whole apple cart was turned upside down. But Francois Hubert, Gary, is definitely a man that needs to be reckoned with, that's for sure. Graham Stephen has done a 1:45.752, Johan Fourie 1:45.810. As a matter of fact, the first 5 drivers are all in the 1:45s, and there's something like 4/10 of a second, or pretty close to 4/10 of a second, between Hubert, Stephen, Fourie, Stanton, and Botha. They are the top 5. With Peter Hubert on a 1:46.168, he's the first driver that does not crack the mid to high 1:45s. So, with about 50 seconds left to go, we are pretty much close to the end of the qualifying session, and I don't believe that they're going to dethrone Peter Hubert. As a matter of fact, I doubt that very much. Johan Fourie is probably going to start on the inside of the 3rd row of the grid, and as I so say, Johan Fourie tops the leaderboard with a 1:45.423. Now, Johan had brake issues, and he imported a whole new brake pedal setup to get his brakes sorted out, and I think that is now sorted out. He says I don't have to do the whole tennis ball brake thing anymore. So Johan Fourie, the quickest man out there, he'll start in pole with Francois Hubert on his outside. The 10-minute qualifying session is done, so Fourie and Hubert will occupy the front row of the grid. Gary, welcome. You were doing settings and getting the settings sorted out for us. We're 100% ready to go. And 1 hour dawns upon us, and that is the grid.
Yep, that's the way they're going to line up out there. And look at that, Johan Fourie on the front row of the grid alongside him, Francois Hubert. Then we've got Graham Stephen and Timothy Stanton. On the 3rd row of the grid, Willem Botha and Peter Hubert, and that rounds out the first of the guys out there, the top 6.
Yeah, Sean McCarthy, Johan Engelbrecht, Andre Steenkamp, Dawie Hubert, and Dr. Mike Verrier and Robbie Teens. That's the first 6 rows of the grid.
Yep, let's see if we can move just a little further down from there. No, that looks like that's about as far as we're going to be able to go down.
Gary. The 7th row is Stephen McCarthy and Sandro Bakari. The 8th row, Colin Plitt and and Willem Pinaar. The 9th row, Wayne Camage and Gerald Mauger. And the 10th row, Peter van der Spey and Johannes van der Merwe.
Well, that's pretty much the grid as you see it out there. And, well, round number 5, we said it's going to be a goodie, no doubt about it. And let's look at that front row of the grid, Johan Fourie and Francois Hubert. If you look at the point standings at this stage of the fight, Francois Hubert leading out 98 from 89 from Johan. I think action down into turn number 1. It's going to be good.
Well, we are at Suzuka Formula 1 Grand Prix circuit. The safety car leads them off the line. This will not be a 50-minute race. This is a 1 hour enduro, 60 minutes, and pit stops will be critical. Already cars having problems out there on the parade lap, or out lap I should say, with drivers whacking into the back of each other. So as they go behind the safety car, there's Stephen coming through as well. And Timothy Stanton is inside that lot. Willem Botha. There's quite a few Denso cars out there. That's the Toyota Motorsport livery. And we are good to go green as this one is underway. Down into turn number 1 they go. And this is a 1 hour. This is a 1 hour enduro, and Johan Fourie leads from Francois Hubert in second place. Third position is Graham Stephen, followed there by Timothy Stanton and Willem Botha. That's the first 5 cars making their way through the curves of Suzuka Raceway. Through the curves they go now. Mike Vera sitting down in that 11th position with the 8-Call 24/7 car as we pan all the way back to Gerald Mouget, sitting in that 15th position in that Gulf Lubricants, Gulf Oil Colors car. As the leaders will be heading under the bridge, they'll be making their way towards the hairpin, and then from the hairpin they'll be going towards Spoon. That's the hairpin corner that the leaders going through now. That is Johan Fourie with Francois Hubert and Graham Stevens second and third, Gary. Into that slight right-hander, they make their way up to Spoon corner.
That's pretty much flat foot as you run your way through there. Now you've got to ease out on it and work your way through that corner. Climb on the brakes, ease it in, climb on the gas, lift off lightly. If you don't, that's what happens. You get the back wheels right on the edge of that curb. Now that's that uphill section. Next corner is going to be a left-hander. It's almost flat foot through there. You've got to have big einies to go flat foot all the way through there. Now you're going to come into a very tight right, a very tight left. You can overshoot that one very easy, and you have to come out there as smooth as possible, get off that curbstone and try and keep your foot flat all the way through. You see the dark line on the circuit to be able to come out of that corner with maximum pace.
Right, lap number 1 is done. They are starting this second lap. Fourie sits up there in P1. Francois Hubert is in that second position. Graham Stephen, Willem Botha and Timothy Stanton. That is the top 5. As Johan Fourie leads him through that set of left-right curves. And this is pretty tricky out there at the Suzuka International Raceway. It just keeps on and on forever. Left and right and left and right as you weave your way through into that final left-hander, which will take you into the right-hander at the bottom. They should be going under a bridge pretty soon the moment they exit this right-hander. Yep, under the Bridgestone Bridge they race as they work their way now towards the left-hander. That's the hairpin. The Dunlop sign is right in there, heading out of that hairpin bend, working their way towards Spoon corner. It's a long right hand that just keeps on and on and on. It's a curve. As you can see, it just carries on forever, and now into Spoon corner, which will take them down that long straight before they get to that tight right, left, right, which takes them back onto the main straight once again.
Look how close Francois Hubert is onto the back there of Johan Fourie. Graham Stephen there and thereabouts. He's going to have to put some serious effort into this one if he wants to get closer. That's Graham Stephen. Willem Botha not far behind him. There's Willem Botha, and just behind Willem Botha, Timothy Stanton. So Timothy Stanton in the top 5. That's pretty good for him. Sean McCarthy, and he's got a lot of pressure. He's got Peter Hubert and then the likes of Andre Steenkamp right in there as well. Davy Joubert is not far behind them. Mike Verrier, Dr. Mike, there he goes with the 8-Call 24/7 car, and he rounds out the top 10.
Well, we need to see those gaps between them because there is lots of dicing between P4, 5, 6 and 7. It's very, very close out there as we watch Dr. Mike Vera in the 8-Call 24/7 P217 Dallara. He sits there in that 9th position. Sandro Bakari sits there in 10th. He's in that 72 car, and right behind him is the Castrol outfit of Willem Pina. He did so well last week. Willem got a top 3 if my facts are right. Gerald Mouget is in that 12th place. He rounds off the first 12, and he's been hassled there by Davy Hubert in that 3 car. Davy's got a PB of a 148.215. Is Davy Hubert.
Wayne Cammage, the next man in there, and behind Wayne Cammage, Colin Plitt, all over his bank bumper. That's Colin Plitt. He's got a decent gap at this stage, the fight, from the comeback kid, Robbie Tings. Robbie Tings, a total of 23.5 seconds off the likes of Johan Ferrie. But he's got a 5-second gap back to Peter van der Spey. Now, Peter van der Spey, very ill at the moment. Not a comfortable drive for him whatsoever, with side effects of illness, saying that he shouldn't actually drive, but he wants to give it a go and see how he can do. Our newcomer, Johannes van der Merwe, that's him out there, and he's got Stephen McCarthy behind him. So Stephen McCarthy, Johan Engelbrecht, and Eugene Manouk, not where they would like to be ideally out there on circuit. But Graham Stephen has got himself up into that second position already. So it's Johan Ferrie from Graham Stephen, and then a Willem Botha in there behind that.
Yeah, Johan Ferrie sitting out there in a P1. We have a look at a replay of something that went wrong.
Francois Hubert.
Yeah, Francois Hubert making a mistake there, spinning it out, taking the bollards out. So Francois Hubert losing a couple of positions.
That's how he lost that second position, and that's how Graham Stephen got to the front. So Johan Ferrie, that's leading them out right now, has not got that direct pressure from that man that was so close to him. So Graham Stephen in that second position. Willem Botha, the next man coming through. Now look at this, Sean McCarthy in behind him. Timothy Stanton behind that. Peter Hubert, Francois Hubert is in that 7th position. Whoa, closing up big time on the back there. Andre Steenkamp all over the back of Andre Steenkamp, and looking forward from Andre Steenkamp. That's what he sees in front of him. In fact, from Mike Verrier's car, and there you can see in front of him Andre Steenkamp, Francois Joubert, and Peter Joubert. It's all in the same frame right there in front of him. How tantalizing that must be.
Well, I'll tell you what, I love to know the gaps between each driver, because the gaps we're seeing now is from P1 all the way down to P21, and that's a nose cam view of Dr. Mike Verrier. He's 12.2 seconds behind Johan Ferrie as he makes his way into that left-hander. They're going towards the end of the lap. You see the Ferris wheel there on the right-hand side. Now you very hard on the brakes. It's a right-hander, it's a left-hander, and a right-hander once again that takes you onto the home straight. There's the pit entrance on the right-hand side as Dr. Mike Verrier races down the home straight. He's got Andre Steenkamp in the Batmobile right in there behind him. There is nothing between the two of them as they start. That's a whole selection of curves, and Dr. Mike sits in the top 10. He's there in P8 trying to fight off the likes of Andre Steenkamp, but Johan Ferrie is 2.9 almost 3 seconds ahead of Graham Stephen. That's there in that second position, and that lead by Johan Ferrie is getting further and further down the road. It's a huge gap. It's 3.1 seconds. There you see Graham come into view as he works his way out of the hairpin, heading down that long right-handed curve towards Spoon Corner. But Stephen has been hassled there by the Denso Toyota racing outfit of Willem Botha in that third position.
Well, the three of them have made a pretty decent gap back to Sean McCarthy. Sean is now slowly but surely shaken off the attentions of a whole bunch of cars that was in there right behind him. And Timothy Stanton being the closest to him. Timothy not being intimidated whatsoever. Timothy Stanton, the son of Roly Stanton, Roland Manifolds. Yep, that's the same man, the same family. Timothy Stanton in that fifth. Don't forget about Peter Hubert, and he's got the rest of the Hubert family in there behind him as well. Francois Hubert bringing up the tail end of that little group through the right-hander, through the left-hander. Now you start climbing on the gas. Third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear as you come through there. Keep it hard and loud all the way up that front main. And look at that, line astern, Francois Hubert. Well, he's sitting in a very nice position. Cars right in front of him. A little bit of space behind. Oh, he runs it wide and almost gets tagged from behind as well.
Yeah, Francois Hubert getting it all wrong. He's got Dr. Mike Verrier. That's right on his button as they make their way into those little curve sections. We have a look at Gerald Mouget. Got it all wrong there. Well, he had to take evasive action, did Gerald. So well done there to Gerald Mauger as he keeps on going. Another replay at Davi Hubert. And Mauger had to take action purely because Davi Hubert got it wrong. You'll see Davi getting it all wrong, and then Gerald Mauger taking that evasive action around his outside.
Nice to be able to see how that one played out. Johan Fourie, second in the championship, leading it out the championship and the race at this stage of the fight. Nothing much in it between himself and Graham Stephen. Graham Stephen 3.3 seconds. Frankie, we must keep an eye on that. There's Graham Stephen in the distance. Graham Stephen and Willem Botha. Willem Botha right in there behind him. So Willem Botha, also a man that's pretty high up in the championship, not being dropped and dusted at this stage. But the gap back to this man, Timothy Stanton, that is growing. Timothy Stanton finds himself now 11 seconds off, but he's quick enough to stay ahead of that man, Peter Hubert. Peter Hubert 2 seconds now off Timothy Stanton. So Timothy stretching out that, shall we call it, mid-pack group. Don't counter out that man, Francois Hubert, either. And he's managed to take now 3 seconds out of the Mike Verrier car, but Mike Verrier has now been passed by Sandro Bakari. Sandro Bakari, that's the highest he's been so far this race, up into 7th position.
Now, Sandro Bakari making his way down the main straight. We have a replay at Mike Verrier, the A-Call 24/7 car. Mike Verrier losing a position there. I think, no, they turned into each other and there was a bit of chaos there. That's heading towards the end of that lap with Mike Verrier regaining the circuit once again. Sandro Bakari still sitting up there in that 7th position. The replay at Andre Steenkamp in the Batmobile. And
he was the one coming up on the inside of Mike, or
correct,
trying to.
Correct, and then Mike turned in on him, or they turned in on each other. Let's rather put it that way. And that caused that accidental contact.
Yep, let's go back to the front end of the field. And who's leading the race?
Johan Fourie. Hey, the man himself. You know what? Alain Prost was called the Professor. And I think we can call Johan Fourie the Professor. However, you know what, Gary? I was actually thinking a while ago, a couple of race meetings ago, or in the previous season, if you said if all goes according to plan, who should come first and second, you'd always say, Johan Fourie, Willem Botha. But every driver stepped up to the plate. And now you cannot say that Fourie and Botha are the odds-on favourites anymore. They are still the best out there, but the other drivers have come up in the ranks so much that everybody in the top 10, 12 is a favourite to win it now. So there are theoretically no more favourites. They are all favourites, at least a top dozen.
Timothy Stanton, who would have thought he would find himself in 4th position ahead of that group, which is Peter Hubert and Francois Hubert. Both of them, no slouches. Ooh, that was very close to disaster. Right on the edge there. Peter Hubert pushing it as hard as what he can. Francois Hubert right in there behind him. The two of them have got a decent back gap back behind them there too. That man, Sandro Bakari. And Sandro's got 3 seconds on Mike Verrier, who is just ahead of Sean McCarthy. There's Steenkamp. He was the one that had the contact with Dr. Mike Verrier earlier on. But he's got very little space between himself and an international driver, Gerald Mauger, with Davi Hubert, and then Robbie Teens right in behind that.
You know, Robbie Teens sitting out there in that 13th position, and he should theoretically have Colin Plitt there, right there with him. Colin Plitt in that 14th. There's Colin Plitt not too far behind there. Robbie Teens as they go into that right-hander. We have a replay at Johan Fourie. What did Johan do here? Johan going into the hairpin corner. Let's call it the Dunlop hairpin. And the tail stepped out. The tail stepped out. Has he done enough to regain the lead? No. Well, here goes Stephen has gone through. So Graham Stephen is the man that's in the lead. Willem Botha, yes, Willem Botha should be second. And Willem Botha is second. And Johan Fourie is there with him as well. So that's the top 3. So Fourie getting the tail, stepping out on his P217 Dallara, and Fourie dives into pit lane.
Yep, that's the first one to blink. They said 50% fuel, maybe 2 stops, maybe even 3 stops. So the two of them lead out. Timothy Stanton, does he go through? Yes, he does. Timothy Stanton goes through. Francois Hubert, does he go past the pits? Yes, he does. And then Peter Hubert, he's also gone past the pits as well. That means Johan Fourie has now dropped a long, long way down. Even Sean McCarthy's coming through, and Johan Fourie just keeps on dropping down and down. Where does Johan Fourie eventually come out, or has he just packed up completely? Well, everybody else has come through, so we'll have to see what happens eventually with Johan Fourie. I think he's still in the pits. Could he have picked up that amount of damage? Let's go back to the front end of the field.
Well, I'm not too sure exactly what happened to Johan. You saw him turn in, and then the car spun itself around on its own. There was no contact with anybody else, so not too sure what happened there to Johan, but he's dropping down the leaderboard heavily. But Graham, Stephen and Willem Botha, well, they occupy the front end of the leaderboard. That's the intervals that I want to see. There's only 0.4 of a second between Stephen and Botha, and then there's a lovely fight going on for 11th position as well. But it's all about that fight out there in P1 at this point in time. Graham Stephen, who is the brother of Michael Stephen, and Willem Botha is right in there. So it's Stephen versus Botha, and there's nothing, there's 0.4 of a second between them as they head towards the end of the lap. That's the final right-hander, Gary, which takes them back onto the home straight.
Now, the next battle behind that is, in fact, Francois Hubert and Timothy Stanton is the next battle that's going to come through there, unless one of them goes into the pits. There they come through now. Francois Hubert is 1.7 behind Timothy Stanton. That finds himself now up into third position already. So if Timothy can hold this one together, well on his way to his best result so far to date, Francois Hubert, and then just behind him is then Peter Hubert, that's not being exactly dropped out of the picture whatsoever, and he rounds out then Peter Hubert, the top 5.
I got a funny feeling something happened to Johan Fourie's sim rig, because that car just spun itself around completely, and I think something has gone wrong with his sim rig, because he's 21st and last, and Johan Fourie is in dire straits at this point in time. But there's no problems for first, second and third as we keep an eye there on Francois Hubert, hugging the back end there of Stanton. Davy Hubert, a replay there on Davy Hubert. That's heading towards the end of the lap into that tight right, left, right, and the tail of the Dallara steps out just before the right-hander with Gerald Mouget once again having to take evasive action.
See how many people have actually lost it in that exact same spot. You need to try and flick that right left-hander out into the front main and get the hammer down as quick as you possibly can. So Graham Stephen and Willem Botha, from the front of Willem Botha's car, he's going to have a bird's eye view of the back end there of Graham Stephen, and they both dive into the pits. They both dive into the pits. Now, who's the next man out there? It is Timothy Stanton. Is Timothy going to go through?
Yes, they're all coming in. Francois Hubert's coming in behind him as well. So 18 minutes into this race.
And contact.
Yeah, well, Francois drove into the wall there by the looks of things. I'm not too sure exactly what happened there.
Just about everybody's coming in. The top 7, the top 8. In fact, does Andre Steenkamp come in as well? Andre Steenkamp coming in. They're piling into the pits one after the other. Now, Robbie Teens is shown up on my screen as having had an accident as they all come into the pit lane. It's just happening so quickly. So Andre Steenkamp, as he comes into the pit lane, nope, it doesn't show anything there. That looks all good. There was a possibility that he was in fact involved in. Look at that. Have you ever seen that in iRacing?
No.
Everybody coming in at the same time.
No, this looks like a IndyCar, a real life IndyCar race when they go to full course yellow and everybody dives into the pits and then they all dive out in different positions. This is exactly what this looks like. This is awesome. This is absolutely amazing. The guys are timing their pit stops at exactly the same time. And man, oh man, is this going to be interesting. Mouget is busy moving. I see him working his way down the pit lane. There at the back, I see Willem Pina also making his way out onto the track once again. So all the drivers are systematically working their way out. And look who's up in front, Colin Plitt, and he gets it all wrong. Colin Plitt gets it all wrong. And look who's now in the lead, Gary.
Johannes van der Merwe. Can you believe it? The only man that hasn't put it now. Can he get through another lap? Were they all spot on and him not?
The rookie is in the lead.
The rookie is in the lead. The newcomer, the 67 car, he's got 3.5 seconds. Can he make it back to the pits? Let's have an in-car shot of that one. That's what he sees as he works his way. I'm sure that with a 50% fuel load, a possible 2 stops out there, maybe even a 3rd stop. Remember, that was on 18 and a half minutes that they were out there. So definitely looks like at least 2 stops per person. Surely he is going to come into the pits now. Yep,
yes,
there
he
he goes into the pits. Now, where does that leave the likes of Graham Stephen?
Graham will lead the lead, that's for sure, as we watch Van der Merwe pit and Willem Botha sits there in that second. So guess what? It's back to exactly what it was. The rounds of pit stops are over. And we've got Stephen and Botha back in P1 and P2 with once again 0.4 of a second between the two of them. So while all of this excitement happened, after the pit stops panned themselves out, we're back to Stephen and Botha P1 and 2. And Gary, I'm going to take a wild guess here. I think Johan Fourie is retired from this one.
I think so as well. Let's see if we can maybe pick him up. No, it doesn't pick him up. It goes straight to Scenic. So I think that Johan Fourie has run into problems. There's no way around it. And I think he might be out of this one. Graham Stephen at the front. Willem Botha. Let's just have a look down the pack now and see how it actually looks. So Graham Stephen and Willem Botha, nothing much in it. Probably in that same shot just after that, you're going to pick up the likes of Timothy Stanton. And Timothy Stanton's got a 2.7 second lead there from Peter Hubert, from Francois Hubert. Sandro Bakari having a pretty good run for a change. Mike Verrier finds himself under a bit of pressure from that man, Sean McCarthy.
Yeah, and that is the top 8. I'll tell you what, after 21, almost 22 minutes, it's pretty tight in that top 8, 9, 10 positions. Dr. Mike Verrier making his way towards, I think this is the hairpin, or it could be Spoon Corner. It is Spoon Corner indeed, that he makes his way around. And then there's that long straight. There are grid positions there as well, because at Suzuka that gets used as a start-finish line for other forms of motorsport other than, of course, Formula One. And now they go to that left-hander, and then that's a right, left, right, pretty sharp chicanes that they go through before they get back onto the main straight again.
A little bit further down, 13th and 12th position, that is Stephen McCarthy trying to hold in the tail end there of the comeback kid Robbie Teens. That's that long right-hander. It's now a long straight. Now it's going to go into that left-hander. Then it's going to be a short squirt, and this is where it gets tricky. This is where you see a lot of these replays. Hard on the brakes, 3 gears down, flick it to the right, flick it to the left, stay off those curbstones, and then try and feed the accelerator as hard as possible. You see that black line where everybody's been running through there, and you get it back out into the front main. Let's go and look. Oh dear, it looks like Andre Steenkamp is running into a problem.
Yeah, I see there Andre Steenkamp. It shows in pit, so clearly Andre had issues out there. Here we have a look now. He's making his way through that left-hander, and that's taking you to exactly that same place you spoke about earlier, Gary. They probably stepped out. Yes,
hard.
it did. It stepped out, and that is that right, left, right, and that takes you to the end of the lap.
And
But
that costs.
it stepped out twice there on Andre Steenkamp, did the tail end of that Delara P217.
A nice gentlemanly move there, reversing the car back, line 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars to come through before he comes back on circuit. But that is what Mike asked for. In fact, that's Mike coming up towards him now, and he must obviously feel that he's got some damage on that motor car as he runs it back into the pit. So it's all about these two up front. It's Willem Botha that finds himself less than a second behind Graham Stephen.
Now that was Eugene Manouk that came through over there, but this is the two leaders. They are 7/10 of a second, 6/10 of a second, back to 7/10. It's in other words, under a second between Graham Stephen and Willem Botha, car number 1 and car number 10, sitting out there in P1 and 2. Francois Hubert is only 3.2 7 seconds ahead of Peter Hubert. So those two Hubert family members are going one-on-one with each other into the right-handers that's heading away from turn number 1. That's that right and left curves that Francois and Peter Hubert are working their way through. This will take them into a left-hander. Then there'll be a right-hand at the bottom of that straight, which will take them under the bridge. And then it'll take them into the hairpin corner. But further down, Robbie Teens, and he is right there. He's got Johannes van der Merwe ahead of him. That's Van der Merwe and Teens, Gary, working their way through the curves.
Oh, nothing much between the two of them whatsoever. Look at that, up that semi-blind rise, over the top of the rise you come. Now you can start feeding it in harder and harder up into 5th gear. Just nibble on the brakes, use the whole of the curbstone, nibble on it once again, and take a whole handful of steering, go through under the crossover, up the hill you go. Now you're going to be slightly unsighted, but you've got a complete U-turn that you've got to go into. Look at that, using all the steering and more. A 1st gear exit out of the corner. Now that long rise up to 2nd, up to 3rd, the curbstone. You know that you're eventually going to have an offset left-hander as you get to the top of the hill. Oh, braking very late, but now you've got to lift off, accelerate, lift off, accelerate again. Watch for that outside curbstone. That's where the problem comes in. If you carry too much speed through that apex, and that's something that Gavin Fleming taught me a week or two back when we were on the circuit, you have to feather and plant. Otherwise, you lose so much ground on that piece. And now when you come into that tight right, left, you now close up, but once again the car in front of you accelerates out before you can into the front straight. Robbie Teens, frankly, just trying a little bit too hard, using a little bit too much curbstone there.
Yeah, he lost a lot of ground there to Johannes van der Merwe in that spoon corner that you were talking about, and that's why van der Merwe has pulled out quite a gap ahead of him. As we watch Robbie Teens go into the right-hander, and he's got the Castrol man himself, Willem Pina, in there. And Johan Fourie back.
Yep.
Johan Fourie is back. Thank goodness. I thought that we had lost Johan. He is one lap down, sadly. But whatever the problem was, Johan Fourie, with his never say die attitude, he's back. He knows he's not going to get a top 3 or top 5 in this one. But Johan Fourie will never back down.
With Johan Fourie, you never know. Let's go a little bit ahead of him. There is Eugene Manouk. You can never count him out. That's Eugene Manouk, and looks like he's a couple of guys with connectivity problems at the moment. In fact, so ahead of Eugene Manouk, there is Stephen McCarthy. Andre Steenkamp that had that problems earlier on. In fact, he's had a couple of offs. It's Andre Steenkamp, and that's why he finds himself so far back. 15 seconds ahead of him, our international driver Gerald Maget. 7 seconds further forward. Oopsie, that one didn't work very well. And who was that? I think it was probably Wayne Camage. Let's see if we can pick up that one. Is that Wayne Camage? Yes, it is.
Yeah, but Gary, that is indeed Wayne Camage in that replay, and he's going into the hairpin corner. And Johan Fourie. No, that's not Johan Fourie.
Yep, I think that is where the problem started. I think it was Johan Fourie. Yep, here's Johan Fourie.
Yes, it is Johan Fourie.
Crossover, right-hander, long climb.
Into the
hairpin. On the
hairpin.
brakes.
And the tail steps out of Fourie's car. Gary, Johan Fourie, as I said earlier on in the production, imported the new brake system from overseas, and I'm having a guess here because obviously I don't know, but I think, and I just think that Johan's got brake problems.
I think so too. If you see when he has gone off, where's it been? Under braking.
Under braking, yes.
So definitely, probably load cell pedals, a different type of feel underfoot. They normally set it up with those load cells very, very hard. If you speak to Captain Peter van der Spy, you will, and you drive on a rig like Peter van der Spy has got, you will see how hard you actually have to climb on the gas. And in fact, Peter van der Spy, where is Captain Pete? A man that's not feeling very well whatsoever. He's actually tested COVID positive and said he's got a major headache. Looking through a TV doesn't help whatsoever, but he is out on circuit. He's in that 13th position. Will he make the full period of time? Well, not too sure. Another man that's just had a problem, that is Stephen McCarthy. Well, sorry, there's Peter van der Spy. Let's just pick up Steven in the exact same spot.
Yeah.
Everybody battles there, and it looks like a bit of connectivity problems for him there as well. Let's go back live. Let's go back to the front end of the field, and it is this man, Graham Stephen.
Well, this little battle between Graham Stephen and Willem Botha has not stopped. We are almost 30 minutes into this 1 hour, so we are approaching the halfway mark, and still Graham Stephen and Willem Botha. There's approximately 7/10 of a second between the two of them for P1 and P2. Timothy Stanton sits out there in that third place, and my goodness, Timothy Stanton has never done this well. So well done to him as the two leaders work their way out of the hairpin corner. Now they're going to this long right-hander that just doesn't end. It just keeps on and on and on, this right-hander, then it straightens out slightly, then into the left-hander, that is spoon corner. Oh, and Willem running a little bit wide, coming out of a spoon corner as he chases down race leader Graham Stephen.
Well, there you see Graham Stephen, 5th overall with 65 points. That's the man that's leading out, and the man that's in front of him, Willem Botha, on 82 points. So that just gives you a bit of an idea as to the gaps between them.
Well, that's the points gaps, as Gary was saying, between them. And this will do their championship chances very, very well if they can get a P1 and 2 between the two of them as they cross the start-finish line and start another lap here at Suzuka International Raceway into that right-hander. And then they'll go into those set of curves once again with 31 minutes done in this hour race. And I'll tell you this for nothing, if this is the way these two are going to rub each other up until the checkered flag comes out, we're going to be in for an entertaining one. Gary, the big question is, everybody has made a pit stop, and they made their pit stop way before the half an hour mark. I think it was about 17, 18 minutes into the race.
18 minutes 30, around about there.
So these boys are going to have to make another pit stop before the end of this one.
Well, at 20, they'll go to 40 minutes. They're on 31 and 0.4. Probably about 8 minutes from now. Everybody except for Stephen McCarthy and Johan Ferry, because of problems doing those extra pit stops. Looks like Willem Pina has got himself into a very nice dice there. Let's see if we can pick that one up. Yep, 1x3-way battle.
Yeah, Willem Pina, ahead of him is Johannes Ferry, and ahead of Johannes Ferry is Robbie Teens. That's at fight for 10, 11 and 12 out there on the track. As you see, the three of them whiz through your camera shots there on your screens at home into that left-hander. They go, just keeps on going, that left-hander into that right-hander. The three of them make their way now. Are they heading towards the bridge? Yes, they are heading towards the bridge. And that is Teens, and right behind him is Van der Merwe and Pina into the hairpin. They go. Oh, Pina taking a much tighter line out of that hairpin corner as he chases down Johannes van der Merwe.
That's what it looks like from Willem Pina. 0.4 of a second when you're doing closing on 300, 320, 330. And that's what it looks like when you are less than half a second. Just listen to the sound of the car. Twice he had to lift off, and that's how you get the tighter line coming through there. Now this blind rise. Listen to the revs of the car as you come into this left-hander. Oh, he's pitching very quickly. Just feathering the extra, not lifting off, just feather. Now, do you go for the braking marker, yes or no? If you do, it's going to be very, very tight. Somehow he made that one stick, and he turned it in tight enough not to touch the back bumper there of our newcomer, Johannes van der Merwe. Johannes just outside of the top 10. Welcome to the big league.
Well, he is indeed a big league player. He is a Johannes van der Merwe, and he is battling heavily there with the Panasonic Castrol outfit of Willem Pina that sits there in P12. He rounds off the top dozen, and is this a second round of pit stops? I think so, yes. And into the pits, you've got Peter van der Spey. He's one of the two drivers that's dived into pit lane.
Yeah, him and Johan Engelbrecht, but let's go back to that Willem Pina battle. I tell you what, that is the tightest battle out there right now. They're very, very close to one another. So Peter van der Spey has worked his way into the pits. Johan Engelbrecht went into the pits as well. That means both of them have done double pit stops. Johan Ferry not giving up. He's still out there on track. Obviously had a reasonable amount of damage on his motor car. Eventually
diving through. Sorry, Gary, I do apologize. Cars all over the place, and Willem Pienaar's making the move. And I think Pienaar, yes, he's got his nose ahead there of Johannes van der Merwe.
That was probably Eugene Manouk, I think, that was involved in that one. Yes, it was. He went and had a look up the inside, just nibbled the back bumper, and then made it all stick together. Willem Pienaar was quite fine. So it was Eugene Manouk was the man that then went off the circuit and came back on again.
100% correct there, Gary. That's exactly the way it was. As we go back to the leader, Mr. Graham Stephen out there in P1, and he's getting slightly away there under Willem Botha. That sits in that second position, 2.3 seconds ahead there of Botha. That's in that second place. So the Denso Toyota outfit chasing down Stephen. That's in P1. Third place is Francois Hubert. He's 8.9, almost 9 seconds behind Willem Botha in that third place. But there comes Timothy Stanton. And Timothy Stanton's got Peter Hubert right there with him. There's 6/10 of a second between the two of them. Sandro Bakari sits there in that P6, and Mike Verrier, the doc, making his way out of the hairpin, is in P7. Right behind him is the man in P8, namely Sean McCarthy. That is the top 8, with David Hubert in that 9th position and Willem Pienaar rounding off the top 10.
Let's just have a look again. The top runners, Francois Hubert, Johan Ferry, and Willem Botha, with Johan Ferry pretty much out of it. The likes of Sandro Bakari lying 4th overall in the championship. He is looking at getting a decent result here, and I do believe that he's well on his way to doing that.
Right, Sean McCarthy. Ahead of him, you see Dr. Mike Verrier, Dr. Mike in P7, Sean McCarthy, that man there in that 8th position, both of them in the top 10, heading into the right, left. Oh, and into the pits comes the two leaders.
It's party time.
Yep, the two leaders are in the pits, Graham Stephen and Willem Botha.
In fact, there's more that's piling in. They're piling in 38.46. In other words, they are a little bit short of a third of the race and a third of the race. That being the case, are we going to have people that's going to run out of juice right at the end? You know what Mike does. Mike likes to make it very, very marginal for the guys to be able to do it on the minimum number of pit stops. We might just have people running out of fuel at the end. Remember, we are now on 37. That means where you were going 20 minutes, you now have to be able to go 3 to 3.5 minutes longer than what you've done so far.
Excuse me, Peter Hubert coming out the pit. Sandro Bakari also working his way out of the pit lanes. So the drivers are beginning to make their way out onto the circuit.
Oh, no doubt about it, as Frankie has a moment. Let's have a look at the off-track incidents that the guys have had. Look at that. That's how many times they've been off limits. And give it up for Johannes van der Merwe in the top 5, the newcomer, and he's only been once outside of the track limits, as well as a Dr. Mike Verrier as well. That doesn't mean that there's been 7 incidents or accidents by Francois Hubert. It means that at some point he's been outside of track limits, not creating an accident, but very, very much on the edge, on the margin. Willem Botha has obviously got a spot where he is cutting the corner slightly somewhere. 16 times that he's had more than 2 wheels on the wrong side of the curbstones.
Now I see Willem Pienaar has also only made 2 mistakes. Oh, Peter Hubert trying as hard as he can as he's chasing down Van der Merwe, and here they come out of the pits. Gerald Mouget is leading them out of the pits. Wayne Camage is also making his way out of the pits as we have a look once again at Graham Stephen and Willem Botha. They're on P3 and 4 at this point in time as they race under the Suzuka circuit bridge
and go
into
to the
turn
top,
1.
And go to the top of the leaderboard. Graham
Correct.
Stephen and Willem Botha. So that is the place to be. That's where a lot of dust and smoke there. And I do believe that somebody had an incident there. Andre Steenkamp coming out of the pits. in the 46 car. Cold Ties clips a curbstone, gets on the gas a little bit too quickly. Oh, a nice catch. Just took a little bit long to get back on circuit. So that was the dust that you saw.
And right behind them was Graham Stephen and Willem Botha. As we once again look at the two of them, they are the two leaders. Oh man, there's nothing between the two of them. They are going hell for leather. 39, almost 40 minutes done in this race. We have got 20 minutes left to go. Out of the left-hand hairpin they go, as they work their way through that long right-hander that will take them towards Spoon Corner. Here they come under that Suzuka bridge once again. These guys are going flat box, slightly on the brakes. This is that corner that you have to lift off more than once, even here in Formula One racing. The drivers tap off twice in Spoon Corner. It's a very, very technical corner, Spoon.
Another battle for third and fourth, and there they are. It's Pity Hubert on the back end of Francois Hubert. 0.7 of a second between them. And then in there behind that, the new kid on the block. What a lovely drive. There he comes. It is Johannes van der Merwe in the top 5 consistently in this race. 3 seconds ahead there of Sandro Bakari. There comes Sandro Bakari. And then in behind Sandro Bakari, there is Dr. Mike Verrier. But that's 7 seconds further back. He has kept Sean McCarthy behind him in the Sujin Properties car. The man that's going to be the sponsor, in fact, of the 6-hour race coming up at the end of this month.
I'll tell you what, we're going to be very excited to do that one. And into the pits comes Van der Merwe. Van der Merwe pitting out of a P7. And there's more than one car coming into the pits as well, as Van der Merwe makes his way down pit lane. It shows Juan Fourie also here in pit lane as well.
Yep,
man, what a nightmare this man is having.
Looks like Peter van der Spey's run into a problem.
Let's have a look-see. Yes,
Juan Fourie.
Peter van der Spey making his way into that right-hander. And does the tail step out on Van der Spey? Yes, it does, as he exits the left-hander, sorry.
Difficult situation that you're in. You can see the oncoming traffic. What do? Well, he decides to get out of that one and get going again without affecting anybody else. Willem Botha, Graham Stephen, what a fantastic battle between these two.
But I'll tell you what, one will never ever say they've been racing for 42 minutes. These two, they're still sitting P1 and P2. And here he comes. Botha's having a look. He's got the line. Oh, his nose gets chopped off there by Graham Stephen. And Graham surely now must know that Willem means business. Right-hander, left-hander, right-hander. Pit lane will be on your right-hand side. That's the end of the lap. As we hop on board the Delara P217, the Toyota Hybrid Motorsport Denza outfit of Willem Botha. That's in that second place, racing down into turn number 1. And he closes up. He's a lot later on the brakes. That will force him very hot and wide. Well, yes, he went in very hot, so he runs out very wide. He loses a few tenths of a second there to Stephen that sits out there in P1. Now it's those left, right curves that the two leaders go through. There is just under a second between Stephen and Botha for P1 and P2. Now they'll move to the left-hander. It's a little bit of a straight that takes them to the right-hander. Through the right-hander they'll go now, under the bridge. There's the bridge ahead of you. That's a crossover at Suzuka. That's the only crossover you got at Suzuka circuit. Then you turn slightly right and then into that left-handed hairpin that will take you into that long right-hander that will eventually ease you into Spoon Corner. And there is really nothing, Gary, between Graham Stephen and Willem Botha at this point in time as they go into the hairpin.
The last lap, a 146.308 for Graham Stephen, a 146.496. So 19 hundredths of a second between them on their last lap. It's not that's not the grid that we use. That's what they use for the short circuit. It'll be interesting to see what they do on this lap. Now you'll probably find that Graham Stephen will be a tad quicker than Willem Botha, although Willem looks like he's made up some of that he lost. He's right on the back of Graham Stephen. Prove me wrong. Bang! Let's see when they go across the line. A 46.3 and a 46.4 on the previous lap. What do they do now? a 146.6 and a 146.375. Willem Botha, visually and time-wise, you can see it. He caught him on circuit.
Well, there's a back mark ahead of him. That's a 222 car of Camage that they're going to come up onto now pretty soon. So I'm sure Wayne will receive those blue flags as they work their way. That's the back of the pit area at Suzuka International Raceway as they work their way through those left-handers. Different lines there by Willem Botha, always getting it wrong. He's using the track and a bit more. As Gavin was just saying to us now, he's certainly trying a little bit too hard and is losing ground there to Stephen.
Well, they're going to be coming up behind Wayne Camage. That is true. There's no doubt that he's going to be under a whole heap of pressure as we go one position further forward. There he is. And if you go forward to one track position, that is Graham Stephen that leads them all out 1.57 that he is ahead at this stage of the fight. See, Johan Ferry has had an off track once again, but he's keeping on going. So definitely a lot of damage on that motor car of his. It just doesn't want to come together.
There's a lovely fight for P15 and 16 between Steve McCarthy and Peter van der Spey. And van der Spey, I see, has got his nose ahead. Why? Because Stephen McCarthy is making his way into pit lane.
Another man that's come into the pits is in fact there, Johan Ferry. He's pulled back into the pits again, so he's definitely got problems that is not working out very neatly for him. Graham Stephen leading out very decently there from Willem Botha, and the clocks are ticking. The question is, they've made 18 and a half, 19 minutes without much problem. Can they do 20 and 21 minutes on the fuel that they've got on board? There is 14 minutes to go with Graham Stephen leading out from that man there, Willem Botha.
And remember, I said earlier on, they're going to pick up the 222 car of Wayne Camage. They have caught Wayne Camage. As a matter of fact, a few seconds ago, you would have seen Graham Stephen flash the lights there at Wayne Camage to say, come on, Wayne, you need to hold your line here so I can get through, because I've got Mr. Willem Botha, the Rocket Man, Mr. Bullet Willem Botha, that's there in the second place, and Willem is crowding my back bumper, crowding my wing. So come on, Wayne, you need to make way for me. Camage, will he keep out the way as we look at the two of them? Camage gets it wrong. Camage gets it wrong, and whoo! My goodness, that could have cost the two leaders, but lucky for the two of them, they get past the back marker, Wayne Camage.
Looking at the sector times as they work their way through now, sector 1, 58 thousandths of a second. Graham Stephen better than Botha, 12 hundredths of a second difference in second 2, 16 hundredths of a second in sector 3, sector 4, 3 tenths of a second between them. But that is because of the traffic that they're busy going through. Look at that, 35 thousandths of a second between Stephen and Botha in that last sector. And there you can see that he is now closing up once again all over the back bumper as they work their way up to the start-finish line.
Well, I'm getting the feeling that Willem Botha is the quickest driver out there between himself and Stephen, because he is right on the case of Graham Stephen, but Graham Stephen's doing more than enough to absorb this massive pressure as they work their way out of turn 1 from Willem Botha. Is there back mark ahead of them? Yes, there is. So Graham will be saying, oh my word, another back marker to try and get past, and Willem will be saying, yes, I want you to get it wrong there so I can take this Toyota Hybrid Motorsport P217 Dallara and stick it ahead of you. So we'll have to look and see as the two of them pick up the back marker.
Yep, moving up onto the back marker, and that will be Gerald Maget will be the next man that they're going to be coming up behind. Gerald Maget knows his way around the island very decently, and he will make sure that he doesn't cause any problems. There they come out, goes right to the side there. Graham Stephen comes past, there Willem Botha comes past, and they say thanks very much guys, as Johan Engelbrecht from 11th position comes back into the pits.
Yeah, so Johan Engelbrecht pitting out of P11 into the pit lane. We see the rest of the cars making their way through that right-hander, but we go back to the leaders. There is 0.3 seconds, 3/10 of a second between Steven and Botha that sits out there in P1 and P2, and they are 11.1 seconds ahead of Francois Hubert, that is in that third position. Keeping in mind that Francois won last week's race, but what do? You've gone 50 minutes into a 60-minute race, and Graham will say, my goodness, this man has been hounding me since the lights went off, and Willem will not give up. There's no ways Willem Botha will give up. He's the quickest of the two. You can clearly see he's the quickest of the two there, Gary, working their way out of turn one.
Well, they swap in sector times every time he gets a little bit closer, and then he has to back off. So sector 1, 92 thousandths of a second. Where you sit that close behind somebody, you lose the downforce, you lose the vision to be able to see where the lines are as well. So Steven, 92 thousandths of a second quicker in that one. They've opened up slightly. We'll get the sector 2 times as they come across the sector markings. There they are, 3/10 of a second between the two of them there. It's a concertina effect, backwards and forwards. It is 9 minutes and 45 seconds to go.
Oh, I love this shot from the helicopter that went under the bridge. Now they're going into that hairpin. This is an awesome view of Suzuka International Raceway. Now you'll watch them go into that long right-hander that will take them towards Spoon Corner. There you see Spoon. Somebody's got it all wrong in Spoon Corner. We'll pick that up later. Let's just stay with these guys. And it was Johan Fourie.
Yep.
Johan Fourie once again under braking. Yeah, you know what, I said it once or twice before, and I'm having a guess, but I think Johan has certainly got braking problems. So let's have a look at them again, Gary. As they head now, I believe this is towards the end of the lap. Yes, it is. That's that combination of right, left, right that the two of them are working through. And that was an awesome view. One lap from the helicopter cam on Graham Steven and Willem Botha as they head back into turn 1.
1 minute 46.3, 1 minute 46.4. Graham Steven and Willem Botha. That was the last lap times that they did out there. And look at it. How can you stay so close to somebody and still be able to see the brake markers, see the lines? It's virtually impossible when you're that close to be able to be on your normal pace. I believe, and I tend to agree with you, I think Willem Botha is a touch quicker than Graham Steven. I think if he can get past Graham, will be a little bit stretched to be able to stay with him. I don't think Graham will be able to stay that close to Willem as what Willem is to him. It doesn't get any closer. Well, if you look at the nose cam, that's what you see.
That's what he sees now on the outside. Has he gone in too hot? Has he gone in too hot? Yes, he has gone in too hot. My goodness. Yo, he lost only a few tenths of a second there. He didn't really lose anything to Graham Steven, but he'll be saying to himself, now, come on, Willem, come on. You cannot afford to go in so hot. Andre Steenkamp, what did Andre get wrong here? As we keep an eye on him, does the tail step out going under the bridge? Yes, it does, and almost makes contact with the Armco barrier.
All else fails, stop before you hit the Armco barrier.
Wow, it's all happening. 52, almost 53 minutes into this. You've only got about 7 minutes left in this one, and these two gentlemen have not left each other alone from the get-go. Oh, if only Johan could have been in there, it would have been an awesome one. But they are 11.5 seconds ahead of Francois Hubert. That's in that third place, the man that I said won last weekend, and he's 6.3 seconds ahead of Peter Hubert. So the Huberts are sitting in P3 and P4 at this point in time is Francois and Peter Hubert. And into the pits comes Peter Hubert. We just mentioned Peter Hubert pitting out of P4 with 53 minutes done.
And that means that Sandra Bakari will probably come through. Yes, he has. Where's Mike Verrier? Mike Verrier is going to come through and make up that position as well. Sean McCarthy. Here's Sean McCarthy coming out into that straight. Does he dive into the pits? No. Can Peter Hubert come out in time with Sean McCarthy? Well, there you see as he comes out of the pits, flashing of the lights, McCarthy says, I am a-coming.
And Wayne Camage also made his way out of the pits, but Wayne is down in 19th position. So have a look at this one. There's nothing. There's 3-4 tenths of a second between Sean McCarthy and Davy Hubert behind him. As into the pits comes Willem Pinaar and Robbie Teens, both of them into pit lane.
Now, as we said, it's going to be, it could be, it might be, we don't know, marginal. Nobody ran a full 20 minutes in the first stint.
No.
Nobody ran a full 20 minutes in the second stint.
Correct.
Which means that you are running shy. For the last session, you've got to run 21.5, 22 minutes around about there. If you didn't do it in the first stint, can you then do it in the last stint? No, you can't.
No, because you're going to run short, and with 6 minutes left to go, the two leaders are into the pits. Woohoo! Willem hard on the brakes, not to cream the back end there of Graham Stevens' car. So the two leaders put out of P1 and P2, Steven and Botha into the pit lane. The question is, Gary, will Francois Hubert make his way into the pits as well?
Let me answer that.
The answer is yes.
Will Sandro Bakari come into the pits?
The answer is yes.
All right, so that's all the front runners. Dr. Mike, you designed this. What are you going to do, Cousin Larry?
He pits as well, and that will then release, I think, maybe one of the back markers to come through. But now, what will Peter do?
None of them are going to make it.
No,
none of them are going to make it. They're all diving into the pits. So the next one, and Sean McCarthy and Davy Hubert, they've all pulled into the pits now as well.
And in the pits, Willem Botha came out ahead of Graham Steven. Wow. But there's only 9 tenths of a second between them. So this one's not done, Gary. With 4 minutes left to go, the two, and into the, is that Peter van der Spy? Yeah, Peter van der Spy getting it all wrong out there, making contact with the Omco barrier. My goodness, what a race. What a race we've got as we see Captain Pete whacking the Omco barrier on the wall there. But Peter van der Spy finds himself down in P18. But my word, my word. We've got almost 3 minutes left, and these two hot shots have not left each other alone from the get-go.
We made a prediction saying that we think that Willem Botha appears to be slightly quicker than Graham Stevens. Should he get past, he could make the passing maneuver, but he must have got the telemetry right and short-fueled just a splash and dash in the pits, which brought him out in front. If our prediction is correct, Willem Botha should be able to stay ahead of Graham Stevens. We're about to be proven right or wrong.
I think we're going to be proven right, because even Gavin Fleming agreed with me when I said earlier on that Willem was quicker, and Willem got out ahead of him. Unless he does that, he's going to lose that lead to Graham Stevens. The thing is, Graham Stevens absorbed more pressure than what Willem Botha did, and Graham did not crack. So now Graham is going to say, right, Botha, I never cracked. Will you crack under pressure? He's bobbing and weaving behind him. He's making Willem look around. Graham Stevens, a wily old fox out there. My goodness, this is going to go to the wire. 60 minutes. We're going to race. We've done 57, and there's 5 tenths of a second between them. You would not believe this in a month of Sundays.
Well, give it up for that man, Sandro Bakari, the man that puts in a lot of work in the background with Mike Verrier. He's 20 seconds further back, but he's got himself into a very decent position, and Mike has got himself up into a top 5 as well, and only 9 seconds further back, that'll probably, there he is coming out into the straight, is a Peter Hubert. Sean McCarthy, you see him coming through there as well. Sean McCarthy is ahead of Francois Hubert. That's Francois Hubert that's in there behind him. That's the 3 second gap. And then rounding out that top 10, there is Colin Plitt. He's had to come in. Davy Hubert, looks like he's missed the pit lane completely. That's going to cost him drastically. He's going to have to try. Hopefully nobody comes through, and he gets it back into the pit lane. That's going to take him out of the top 10. There's not a lot of time to go. Can this man make a plan? Graham Stevens on the back of Willem Botha.
Well, with 1.5 minutes left in this one, I think we need to stick here with Botha and Steven. What a 1 hour. I'll tell you this for nothing. This 1 hour has just blitzed past us, because these guys have made it awesomely entertaining. And there's another fight out there between Pinaar and ahead of him Van der Merwe, and that's the fight for P8. Van der Merwe loses that P8 there to Pienaar. As Pienaar goes through, there's a minute left to go, and there's 0.8 of a second between Botha and Steven. Surely they must be heading towards a checkered flag, or will they have to do one more lap? We'll have to look and see as the two leaders make their way into that right-hander. Where are they on Suzuka? I think they're making their way through those curves, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, there's that left-hander. There's a very, very horrible little right-hander that will take you to the bridge. Let's have a look, see where they are now on the track. There's that little horrible kink that will take you to the bridge. Let's just have a look and see. Now, there's the one little right-hander I'm talking about.
I think they're going to be on their last lap. There is 18 seconds to go. Will they cross the start-finish line before the time is up? 12, 11, 10. I think this is the run to the line. Graham Steven and Willem Botha, I don't believe they're going to be able to do another lap.
No, time has run out. This is the last lap. Time has run out. They're heading to Spoon Corner into the left-hander. So the checkered flag will be coming out for these two gentlemen. 0.6 of a second between them. What an hour these two boys have had. Well done, Willem Botha. Well done, Graham Steven. That's that fast uphill that will take you. You just lift off slightly as you go into this left-hander. Through the left-hander, they go back on the gas again, Gary. And then that horrible little curves before the checkered flag. Gary, take them home.
Can this one give us just one more accident? How many accidents have there been there? Nope, they're good enough to go through. It's going to be Willem Botha that's going to take the win. He'll be super chuffed with that. He weaves across the track. Graham says, well, I might be second, but I love that. I'll do the weave trick as well. Well done to them. Let's go just a little bit further down. Behind that, Sandro Bakari. Here he comes. Sandro doing his championship hopes. No harm whatsoever. I think he was around about 4th or 5th or 6th in the championship. 6th, I think, going into this one. And that 3rd place will be exactly what he needs right now. He's got 7 seconds off the likes of Mike Verrier. Goes past Majay as they go towards the line.
Mike Verrier, well done, Doc. Top 5 finishes in P4. Mike Verrier crosses the line, and he will finish 0.8 of a second ahead of Peter Hubert. That will round off the top 5, and here comes Peter across the line right now. There you see Sean McCarthy. He will round off the top half dozen in P6, and Francois Hubert right there behind him in that 7th place, and 20 seconds behind them in P8 is the Panasonic Castrol outfit of Willem Pienaar.
And Robbie Teings hasn't given up on that one either. It's just 2 seconds back from Willem Pienaar. There, Willem comes up across the line in 8th position. 9th will go to the comeback kid, Robbie Teings. And finding himself in the top 10. Well done, Johannes van der Merwe.
Yeah, van der Merwe making the top 10. Will Colin Plitt round off the top 12? Will he be in the top dozen? Yes, he will. Colin Plitt will finish there in 11th place. And Timothy Stanton will finish in 12th. And there was once upon a time when Tim was in that top 5. Johan Engelbrecht crosses the line in 13th and 14th. 24 seconds behind Johan Engelbrecht, Stephen McCarthy, and that's not where Steve wanted to find himself.
No, not at all. So let's have a look at those results. So the winner there, Willem, and he takes it away from Graham Steven by just 0.4 of a second. It doesn't get any closer.
No, it doesn't. Basanda Bakari rounds off the podium in that 3rd position. Mike Verrier and Peter Hubert round off the top 5.
Well, if you look at that with Willem Botha, let's have a look. Where was he on the points? He was on 82. Johan Ferry not scoring any points, so he will take 20 points onto that. It'll take him a long way up. Francois Hubert, where was Francois Hubert? At the end of the day, he came through in 7th position. It's going to be very, very tight at the front of the grid. The top 5, Willem Botha, Graham Stevens, Sandro Bakari. Well done, Sandro, from Dr. Mike and Peter Hubert.
Sure. And rounding off the top half a dozen in P6, Sean McCarthy from Francois Hubert, Willem Pienaar, Johannes van der Merwe, and Colin Plitt in the top 10.
Well, that pretty much wraps up round number 5 from Suzuka in the Delara LMP2s. Better than that, it doesn't get. Brilliant drive The days of domination by any one or two drivers has come and gone in Sports and GT Masters Series, no doubt about it. It's open season. The likes of Willem Botha, Graham Stephen, Mike Verrier coming with to play, Francois Joubert doing excellent recently, the likes of Colin Plitt coming into the top 10, Timothy Stainton running top 5 the better part of the race as well. And I mean, Stephen McCarthy, top 4 in the previous season, finds himself down in 14th position, not because he's going any slower. The others have just stepped up the pace.
Yeah, and hats off there to Peter van der Spey, that's busy recovering from illness, and he brought that number 20 car of his home in the top 20 in 15th position. Man, oh man, oh man, what an hour it was. It felt like 10 minutes. That's how good this one was out there. We look forward to next week, and of course we look forward to the Suzine 6 hour, which will be on the 27th of this month between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. the evening. And if it's going to be anything like the previous one was, it's going to be awesome. And this one will be at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium.
Yeah, that'll be on the 27th of June, and it'll be live streamed by the normal team, the Lara P217s and HPD cars, and 2 or 3 drivers per team with prize money, 2,000 Rand for a win, 1,000 Rand for a second place in each of the 2 classes. Obviously, the slightly quicker cars being driven by the slightly older gents, and the slightly slower cars being driven by the slightly younger gents are going to be riding that one. To enter, WhatsApp your team information to Mike. His details are on screen, and that pretty much wraps it up from us for this evening.
From our side, Frank Guinness, enjoy the rest of your week and catch us next week for more action in the Sports and GT Master Series. And remember, folks, wherever you find yourself in the world, look after yourselves, but yet have fun. And we will see you next week, Wednesday, same time, same place, for some more Sports and GT Master Series action.
Good night to you, one and all.